We can know when the rapture will take place, not in terms of days and hours, uh, which is chronological time. We can know in terms of what's called KAIROS. This is another Greek word for time. We read in 1 Thessalonians that the rapture occurs at a time of sudden destruction. So we can say that when the sudden destruction comes, that's the time of the rapture. So that gives us a sense of when. All we have to do is explore this idea of sudden destruction to find out what's involved. That's 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 2 and 3. The destruction occurs on the day of the Lord, which in the Old Testament was a term that was time of God's judgment through war, the destruction that occurs at a time of war. So the idea is we can say that when the day of the Lord comes, that's the time of the rapture. So that gives us something to work with. We can say we know when it will happen. It'll happen when the day of the Lord comes. So even though we don't know the day and the hour, we can say we know when. Now, this war, we can find out more about this war. It's the war that's described in Revelation 13, verse 7. It says, the beast, which is another name for the Antichrist, the beast will make war against the Christians, the Christian countries, the countries predominantly Christian. Now, this passage says a lot more. It says the beast will win, and he'll gain power over the whole world. It says he'll gain power over every tongue, tribe, and nation, which we can paraphrase that to mean the whole world. Now, only a superpower nation can conquer the world, because if England, for example, or Great Britain, tries to take over the world, it would be up against the two superpowers. And who would win in a contest between Britain and Russia, or Britain and America? Well, obviously, one of the superpowers would destroy Britain. And that's the same with France, Germany, Brazil, and so on. So if a nation conquers the world, it has to be one of the two superpowers, America or Russia. Now, America, we can eliminate America because we're not that type of country. And so who is left? Only Russia. So Russia is fingered, is exposed as a nation that will conquer the world. Based on that premise, we can say we know about when the rapture will occur. It will occur when Russia is, getting ready to bomb America. And we can say it's close at hand right now, because Russia is going after NATO in a big way as far as rhetoric. Also, NATO is the restrainer that's described in Second Thessalonians because NATO was created in 1949 for one purpose: to restrain or hold back Russian aggression. And so the rapture could not take place before 1949. Now we can see that Russia is bad mouthing NATO, accusing NATO of being the aggressor, and so on. And so we can say the rapture, which occurs when Russia bombs America, is close. Now I'm going to try to explain KAIROS as opposed to Chronos. Chronos, let's say a young man is 20 years old, so his father says, "You're a man now." Now he's basing that on his son's age. Now another father has a son. He tells him, "You're a man now," and he says it's because you've learned to drive a car, you have a driver's license, you graduate high school, you're going to college, and in other words, he doesn't name the age of his son. He names the events in the son's life. And in the same way, there are events that have to take place before the rapture can occur. Now, as we find out those events and we monitor them to see have they occurred, which ones have occurred and which ones have not, this gives us a sense of how close the rapture is. Well, I guess that's all I can do right now. Well, let me try a little bit more. The Bible says that we will not all sleep, and that's talking about people at the rapture not leaving corpses that sleep, the sleep of death. That's because at the rapture, which is a time of nuclear war, bodies will be vaporized by the heat of the fireballs. And so in order to find out if we're close to the rapture, we have to reach the point where we have nuclear weapons. In other words, before 1945, we could say the rapture is not that close. But now that we have nuclear weapons, we can say the vaporization idea is feasible, and so we're one step closer to the rapture. In closing, let me repeat that 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 of the sudden destruction is at the beginning of chapter 5, and the rapture is at the end of chapter 4. So the rapture and the sudden destruction are side by side. On that basis, I tell you, the two things happen together, and so the rapture will be a time of mass death, weapons of mass destruction going off. And I want to emphasize again, this mass destruction is war. Because, like I said before, Day of the Lord in chapter 5, verse 2, is a term in the Old Testament that always referred to a time of war as God's judgment. Now, this does not mean his judgment is always in terms of war, but when war is the judgment is called the day of the Lord. Look at Ezekiel 30, verse 3 and verse 10. It speaks about the day of the Lord for Egypt. And then it goes on to talk about the army of Babylon invading Egypt. So that ties the term day of the Lord to warfare. That's all for now. I'm going to write a transcript and put it in the description box. One more thing. August 15th is coming up. That's the anniversary of the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban. And for certain reasons, it's a very possible candidate for the time of the start of the rapture. The start of the tribulation, which begins with the rapture. And one more thing, the rapture will be 5 months long. That's in Revelation 9, verse 5 and 10.